What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Happy Tuesday, 24 hours before another Premier League clash at Old Trafford against Newcastle United, the penultimate match of the season for Manchester United indeed. But before then, we've got so much to get into this morning. We really do. There's actually a really busy morning because as we get closer to the end of the season, as we get closer to the transfer window opening, as we get closer to finding out just really what's going to happen in the future of Manchester United when it pertains to players, coaching staff, stadium, etc., etc. Any big topic you can think of, it's coming very soon. We get rumours. We get talks, we get stories, we get good reports, bad journalism, good journalism, credible sources, not credible sources. So, there's a lot to get into this morning. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. I can see everyone in the chat already is getting involved, having their say about Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, Rasmus Hojlund, Marcus Rashford. I mean, there is a lot to get into this morning, indeed. Javid says, good morning, Owen. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone here in the UV community. Hope you're doing well. How are you all feeling? I mean, let's start off with that. Let's do a little bit of a sort of a check-in first. How are we all feeling? We all feeling good? We all feeling good this morning? Flex not here obviously today. He's on assignment, secret project. He'll be back for the Flex and KG show later on today. Flex and KG, with a lot to say as always. So he'll be back later on. So we got me solo this morning. Javid says we're going to do this. All Elite says jaded. It's probably a fair one, isn't it? Probably a fair one at the moment. I think that's where a lot of people are. You know, with sort of football, Manchester United in general, kind of just going, right, 2 games left of the Premier League season, going, come on, let's just get through this. You know, when you've got like a really busy week of work, or when you're at school and it's like sort of exam season and you just go, let's just get through these. You know, you might not have revised for the exam in general, but you go, let's just get through it. And let's just get to the other side. Once we're on the other side, we can reflect. Maybe I can sympathise with that. Yes. Joe Isaac says feeling great. Just want City to batter Spurs tonight. So Joe's, I guess, wanting City to win the league. Perhaps there was an interesting one last night when it came to the Premier League title race and the race for the Champions League. I actually did a match view exclusive on playback, which was a lot of fun, actually. It was a brilliant game for it. 3-3 at Villa Park. You can go back and watch that if you want. If you want to be involved in those in the future, all you got to do, follow United View on playback. It's pinned there in the chat. It was a lot of fun, actually. It picked the perfect game for him. We're going to be doing more stuff on playback like that in the future. Whereas nothing changes here. Nothing changes here on YouTube. There's still going to be the same stuff that you know and love, but it's a bit of extra. So, for instance, tonight, Flex and KG show, extra on playback. There was a lot of fun to be had there last week. People calling in and having their say, talking to Flex and KG too. There's going to be the full view extra. There's going to be, again, match views like that where it's not specifically focused on Manchester United. Obviously, with the Euros coming up, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff there too. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Really did enjoy that indeed. But I'm getting off course. I always get in trouble when I go off course. Got to focus this morning because there's a lot to get into. And already we've got nearly 600 people watching, which is fantastic. Already 141 likes, as the poll says in the chat. You know what it says? It says, have you hit the like button? Well, you don't have any choice. Basically, you do, obviously. It says yes or doing it now. Yes, so if you haven't already, click the like button. Already a super chat too from Space says, imagine McTominay staying and Bruno leaving. Well, let's get into this story because there's a lot of Saudi chatter, as you would expect. There's a lot of Saudi chatter because we're getting close to the transfer window. And last season, they made a big splash, did the Saudi Pro League, signing a lot of high-profile players. And this summer, they're looking to do it all over again. Now, there's sort of segments involved in this. There's segments. There's the Bruno segment, there's the Casemiro segment. They kind of start off together and then they kind of veer off. So bear with me on this one. Let's start off with talking about Bruno Fernandes, starting off with a story from the Telegraph from Jason Burt. Now he says Saudi Pro League clubs are pushing to sign Manchester United midfielder Casemiro when the transfer window opens next month. There is also huge interest in Bruno Fernandes, although that deal is regarded as far less likely. Now, let's start off with the Bruno stuff. So, Jason Butt continues saying, if Manchester United were made an extraordinary offer for Bruno Fernandes and he was interested in leaving them, it would have to be considered. There has been previous interest in Fernandes from Al Hilal, who have just won the Pro League, and Etihad would be interested this time round if they were given in any encouragement. As I mentioned, there has been previous interest from the Saudi Pro League, and reportedly he has been someone that they've been looking at for quite some time. This was an interesting part, though, from Fabrizio Romano. He did a video on his YouTube channel. He kind of expanded upon this, and I thought this was quite interesting. He said, Bruno Fernandes has always been one of the players most appreciated by Saudi Pro League bosses since their project started more than 1 year ago. At the moment, there are no concrete negotiations. Bruno is fully focused on Manchester United now and will not discuss anything with the club before knowing the technical project and whether they will continue with Erik ten Hag or change the manager. Now, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Well, let me know in the chat what you think about this story, because it's a story that, I mean, I suppose the seeds were kind of planted with that interview he did with DAZN in Portugal a few weeks ago. And the quotes, as Erik ten Hag mentioned in his press conference, were largely taken out of context, weren't they? Largely taken out of context because the questions was about, you know, if he would leave in the future and what that would look like. And he said, well, you know, I'm not even really thinking about it at the moment. I've got focused on the final games of the Premier League. I've then got an FA Cup final, the Euros. If I were to make a decision, if I were to make a change, then it would have to be after that. And I'm not even really thinking about that at the moment. Now, many people, when seeing this news, I think probably justifiably so, are going, well, as we said several weeks ago, everyone's got a price. Now, in terms of priority sales, you know, people that you go, well, this person should go first, or we should only consider selling this person or these players first. Bruno doesn't appear to be high up that list, does he? If anything, it's been quite interesting in his absence the last couple of games, isn't it? Of going, oh, maybe we do need Bruno Fernandes to create chances, because he hasn't really been creating any chances. And it's funny how that kind of stuff works, isn't it? Is you don't know what you've got until you don't have it anymore. And maybe that would be the case with a Bruno Fernandes. I mean, this season in the Premier League, despite what a shit show it has been for Manchester United on the pitch, off the pitch, just in general, he still managed to create the most chances in the Premier League. That's kind of wild, isn't it? But at the same time, Manchester United, clearly, full sale reset. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said it. I'm not attached to any player specifically, any coach specifically. Manchester United need just completely rip it up and start again. And some people will say, well, to be honest, with Bruno Fernandes in your team, long term, you're never going to compete for top honours. You're never going to compete for top trophies. That very well may be true. But at the same time, you're going into this summer with the amount of people that are already earmarked to leave. Would you go, is it the wisest move to get rid of your captain? Is it the wisest move to get rid of someone that in a poor season still has been delivering somewhat? I mean, he's our top goal scorer and he's got the most assists for us this season. Not bad going, is it? So I suppose the big question is how much? If everyone's got a price, how much for Bruno Fernandes? Let me know in the chat what you think about it. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, he's, 29, I think, at this point? Bruno Fernandes. 29 years of age. And I suppose, look, when you're going into a summer where you're not anticipating selling him, he's going to be 30 in September. How much do you go for? I would go on the sort of higher end of it. I don't think people have said, like 60 million, too low. 65 million, too low. 70 million, I still probably say too low. In a season that you don't want to sell him, I'd be going around like 75, something like that. to be honest. I mean, and again, you go to the Saudi Pro League and you say, how much do you really want him? Because we're not desperately trying to sell him. We're not desperately trying to offload him. It's not like, a Jadon Sancho or Mason Greenwood situation where they're absolutely on the market. We're talking about our captain that we're not really looking to sell. But if you can make us a compelling offer, then maybe we'll have a look at it. So that's when you get into the territory of 75, 80, 85, something like that. And then, I mean, as the report says, an extraordinary offer, then you could go, actually, there's a lot we could do with that. I mean, look at Liverpool last summer with the players that they sold to the Saudi Pro League. I mean, they literally redid their midfield because of it. They redid their midfield because of the money that they got. So I don't think Manchester United would have earmarked Bruno Fernandes to leave. That would be something on top of, I think. I think that's something on top of what they would probably be planning on doing. But I don't see it. I don't see it. I'd be very surprised. Not that you can rule anything out, because that was the kind of the Saudi Pro League last summer. That was the curveball that maybe some people weren't expecting. You get right. What time of the year was it when it was just announced? Oh, the Saudi PIF have taken over like 4 teams in the Saudi Pro League. Was that like around this time? Wasn't it? It was like late May, beginning of June, maybe. I think it was. And then next thing you know, they're just sweeping up players. And sometimes they were for players that several weeks prior didn't even look like they were on the market. And then the Saudi Pro League goes to these clubs and go, hey, this player, 60 million quid or 65 million quid. And they also then say to the player, oh, yeah, your contract will be like £300,000 a week or £350,000, 400, and it's very difficult to turn down. And as the report mentions, if the player goes to the club and goes, I want to leave, and they can get a decent offer in, then it becomes a different kind of situation. Bruno, I don't see it. I don't see it this summer. I think there'll be too much going on at Manchester United. I think that you look at a lot of the players that are going to be leaving anyway, and there's going to be a lot. We know specifically, Varane, Martial, they're going, their contract's expiring. Then you're looking at fringe players that are currently out on loan. Your Donny van der Beeks, your Mason Greenwoods, your Jadon Sancho's, your Brandon Williams. Then you're looking at players that have got a year left on their contracts. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof, and others. So there's a lot. Casemiro, which we'll get to shortly. So it's going to be a busy summer as is. And I think Man United might just be a bit reluctant to be like, oh, and in all of that, do we really want to get rid of our captain at the same time? Do we really want to get rid of someone that in a poor season still has delivered the goods somewhat? So I don't see it, to be honest with you. But the only reason I wouldn't rule it out completely is just because last year was crazy with the inclusion of the Saudi Pro League, and you never truly know what they're going to do. Flex did a really interesting piece when he was doing the transfer stuff with Sky last summer, and sort of the way that the Saudi Pro League operates in terms of their transfers is very unique. Like, the league earmarks these players. They've got a list of people that they want. Okay, like Bruno, Casemiro. There'll probably be some City players involved in it this year as well. We want Kevin De Bruyne. We're going to make a bid for Kevin De Bruyne. We want this person. We want this person. They go for them, negotiate them, and then they go, right, you're going to go to Al Hilal. You're going to go to Al Nasser. You're going to go here. Like, it's just very, very, for those Saudi PIF clubs anyway, it's very interesting and very unique how they do it. So I'm sure it's kind of different points to it, isn't there? I'm sure that Bruno Fernandes is on that list, because I'm sure a lot of players are on that list of players that they're looking at this summer, players that they'll consider putting a bid in for, or at least they'll talk to the representatives of. Okay, Bruno's on that list. I'm pretty sure of that, because he's a high-profile player, and he might be one that they consider they could possibly get. Man United haven't done that well this season, but when you look at it more in context of what's happened this season, of Bruno and his loyalty to United, I just don't see that. And the likelihood is we do need to retain some senior players this summer. A lot of players are going to be going. I mean, for better or for worse, whatever your feelings are on Varane and Casemiro, the likelihood is they're both going. That's two high-profile senior players. Now, obviously, you could replace them with senior players, but the likelihood is that United will probably look at going for a younger profile, particularly at centre-back, because they should. Midfield, because they probably should. So you do have to keep some of them. You have to keep some of them around. And it's not me saying, don't sell Bruno at all costs, and in the future we can't get rid of him. He's indispensable, blah, blah, blah. Because I don't think anyone is, apart from, a few young players like a Kobe Mainu. As we've said, everyone's got a price. I'm not attached to any player at Manchester United at all. But I think it would be a big, big risk to let him go this summer. Unless if a huge offer comes on the table, then it becomes very, very difficult to say no, doesn't it? Very, very challenging. And if United are confident that they could reinvest that effectively, or they could bring in 2 or 3 more players because of that money, then it becomes very difficult to turn down. It also depends what Bruno wants to do. And as we've said, and we'll probably say a lot throughout the summer as well, like if a football player has got time left on his contract and he doesn't want to go, there is next to nothing that a football club can do unless they're going to buy out his contract, which in these days of FFP and PSR, they definitely ain't going to do. Man United, it's just not going to happen. You look at people like Anthony, I know people go, Anthony, accept 40 million, 30 million quid for him in the summer. Maybe United would, but Anthony's got how many years left on his contract of 200k a week? I don't think he's going anywhere unless it's a loan situation. There's sort of a contribution of both sides. But in terms of a permanent transfer, he's got all the cards there, hasn't he? He's got all of the leverage. He's got a contract. So that's also the part of it nowadays when it comes to these transfers. If the player doesn't want to go, so all of these stories could be great, and the Saudi Pro League could put a bid in for Bruno Fernandes, but if Bruno goes, no, I don't want to leave, then it's done, isn't it? Then it's a moot point. It's not going to happen. So I would say watch the one with space. We're going to just see a lot of this coming up in the summer. We're going to see a lot of the sort of quite high-profile players, maybe some of the older players, those sort of high-profile Premier League players that are in 29, 30, 31, 32, that kind of range, be linked with these Saudi transfers, because that's what we saw last year. Whether anything will come from it, I don't know. Whether there'll be offers put on the table, I don't know. But it looks like certainly the Saudi Pro League are going to go for it again. As far as Bruno, I'd lean into, I don't see it happening. But you can't rule it out, because at this stage, who knows? Who knows what could happen? So, yes, there you go. We've already got over 1,000 people watching, which is fantastic. So if you haven't already, click the like button. We're currently at 300 likes. We're on good pace today. We're on very good pace today. So if you haven't already, click the like button and be sure to subscribe as well whilst you're at it. Lots of new subscribers recently. Over 167,000 here on United View, which is fantastic. The community is growing. It's diverse. It's full of different opinions, which is what we like to see. So yes, if you haven't already, click that like button and be sure to subscribe too. What are people saying here in the chat at the moment? Let's have a look into the live chat here. Lots of people talking about the Anthony stuff there as well. Lots of people talking about the roof, the Old Trafford roof. There was a story in the Mail overnight saying that Manchester United have drawn up plans to fix the roof at Old Trafford, but the dilemma that they have is why do you fix a roof if you're going to be building a new stadium entirely? So they're kind of waiting for what that decision is going to look like. I think, with what we saw on Sunday, I mean, when you're then they've next got the task force together, just play a compilation of all of those clips that you saw. Becomes a pretty easy decision, doesn't it? And it's just sad. It really is sad. But in a almost perverse way, I'm glad that it happened. Because we've seen those clips before. Let's not pretend like this is a new phenomenon. We've seen that leaking roof clip how many times? There was one, like I said, I think during the pandemic it happened. David Gill said in his interview to Maria Ferdinand, that was like that when we were there. He hasn't been in the job for a decade. So that's already over 10 years that's been like that. But I'm glad that it happened the way that it did, because it was on a big spotlight day, Manchester United versus Arsenal, one of the biggest games on the Premier League calendar. And lots of people were watching. So it got the spotlight and attention that it needed to once again highlight just how mismanaged and run down Manchester United have been. We're talking just then about players that we can't shift because we've put them on massive contracts. At the same time, the stadium's falling apart. The stadium literally is falling apart too. So it's embarrassing, isn't it? It really is. Aaron with the members chat. It's been a member for 16 months. Appreciate all of the support. Says, I would rather sell Rashford. FYI, please speak to KG please speak to KG to be financially responsible. He makes stupid bets, loses, and then twerks on his channel for money. Well, you'd have to pick that with him. KG, that's what he's like. And he won't change, by the way. That's what he will do. The beginning of next season, he'll be doing it all over again, because that's KG the comedian. Particularly when he's talking to ops. I think if it's just you and I talking to him, then maybe it's not so much. But he backs his team. He backs his team, even if he knows the likelihood it's probably not going to pay off. If he's talking to Expressions, if he's talking to Robbie, if he's talking to Abby, and particularly like Spurs and Arsenal, if they're going to start, throwing stuff out there, okay, yeah, go on, well then, fine. I don't think he'll learn his lesson. But yeah, you never know. There's room for growth. Dominic with the super chat says, I think players and managers must go. I do feel for the players that so many promises have been broken by this rubbish board. Hard to stay motivated, unlike what Rooney worked with. Also, he threw tantrums. I think, I've mentioned it several times, for me, I just think the whole institution of Manchester United is rotten. Anything you can point out at Manchester United, you will say rip it up. For me, that's what my reaction would be. So you look at it from a boardroom level or an executive level. Previously, Richard Arnold, John Murtough, you go rip it up, get rid of them all. Okay, they're gone. The ultimate would be obviously the Glazers going, but as of right now, that's not the case. Who knows? Maybe things will change in the future. We can only hope and pray. But then you get into the coaching staff. You would still say, well, this season, that's why the report about Steve McLaren worried me. Steve can stay. Why? Why can he stay? Are we doing jobs for boys again? No. Rip it up. When you're looking at the playing, the majority of the squad, rip it up. A lot of them are just not good enough. They're on inflated wages. That's not their fault. That's the sins of the past. I mean, when you put a contract in front of a player or an agent that I am worth way less than that, what are you going to do? I can't sign this. I can't sign this. This is too good. So I don't push back on that. I do push back on just the desire to try. If you're on that kind of wage, the desire to run, the desire to be available. The desire to listen to instruction, or just everything. It's just rotten, isn't it? It just is completely rotten at Manchester United, and it's going to take a lot of time to fix. But it has to start somewhere, and that's why I am somewhat encouraged with the steps that Ineos have taken thus far, in the sense of if we kept things as is, and we just went into the transfer window with Richard Arnold, with John Murtough, nothing changed, and we just went, right, we're just going to spend and buy some players again. What's that done? What's that done for 10 plus years? Nothing. So it has to be step by step. You have to go, right, let's replace the people that are in charge of all of that first. And then we can make a decision on what we want to do with the coach. Maybe we don't even make that decision this season. Maybe we get our bearings. Maybe we get our feet under us first. Maybe we work with him for a year. Maybe we look at that. Maybe we look at the market and go, actually, you know what? There aren't really any viable alternatives. Let's just give it a go until maybe Christmas. Let's do that first. Let's take it step by step by step by step by step. Let's not be just throwing money into a black hole that is the transfer market and just expecting things to differ. Let's have a bit of strategy. Let's just have a bit of strategy. Let's just think for 5 minutes before we do anything like that. Let's just do that first. So Yeah, but there's still, my goodness me, there's a lot of unpicking to do, isn't there? A lot of unpicking before I think things get better. Nathan says, is there a full view this week? Well, there was meant to be one, obviously, yesterday, but logistical issues, availability, it wasn't possible. So that's why we make sure that we had a Flex's view that went out. And then, obviously, I did the match view on playback too. It's possible, but we're not sure yet because, obviously, it's a busy week because there's a game tomorrow. Obviously, Manchester United, Newcastle, and then we'll see what we can do. But yeah, that's the kind of state of play. Also, later today as well, there's a press conference for Erik ten Hag at Carrington, talking to the assembled media ahead of that game at Old Trafford, the final home game at Old Trafford this season, before we go to Brighton at the weekend for the final Premier League game. So I'll be covering that before the Flex and KG show later on today too. So there's a lot going on at United View today. Let's move on, because let's continue talking about this Saudi links and what have you. Let's talk about Casemiro now. I spoke that part of this story initially from the Telegraph was about Bruno and Casemiro, but we've got a bit more on sort of the I'm back. What I did find to be quite interesting was this part here saying Casemiro's representatives are already understood to have held talks with Pro League clubs. Manchester United are prepared to sell and would like any deal agreed at the start of the window, but will not push Casemiro out. Which is quite curious. But this is another interesting part here. And coming from Fabrizio Romano on his YouTube channel this morning too, saying Saudi Arabia really want Casemiro. The interest is very strong. Manchester United are open to letting him leave. There are very good chances for Casemiro to move to Saudi this summer. He also actually went a step further, saying that he actually expects Casemiro to leave Manchester United this summer. He said, quote, I expect Casemiro to leave Manchester United this summer. So... Look, by all accounts, the talks have already begun, which is significant. Representatives, intermediaries have already had these discussions. The expectation is from someone pretty in the know, like a Fabrizio Romano, is that he expects Casemiro to leave, and the Saudi really want him. And look, let's be honest here. I think we've got to be really honest with the Casemiro stuff, which is if he does go to Saudi, I think to an extent we've got away with one. And I don't mean that as any disrespect to Casemiro. I really, really don't. But I think that would be doing us a massive favour in the sense of you look at the drop-off of him this season. And I know people are trying to sort of twist it recently, going, oh, no, it's because he's playing centre-back. Casemiro, he hasn't played well all season. He struggled all season, whether it's midfield, whether it's defence. And it's not just on him, obviously. The whole team's not played very well, and the system does not help a 32-year-old Casemiro. But even you look at like the statistics of like the interceptions, the duels, the tackles, where everything has dropped. Everything has dropped with him. And then you look at the deal that we gave him in the first place when we signed him last season. What was it, like a 4+1 deal? It's like the second or third highest fee ever paid for a player over 30. It was a desperation transfer, no doubt about it. Desperation. And everyone involved in that transfer should be held culpable of going, how did that happen? Like, how did that happen? Or I mean, the reports came out at the time. This was before even Jim Ratcliffe had even won the race when it came to Manchester United and buying into the club. Like, that was the one deal. It was reported that he looked at and went, this makes no sense. This makes no sense. A player over 30, he's 32 now, we're giving him that long a contract, and he's on how much each week? Really? And this is when you do look at like the Saudi market and then being interested in a high profile name like a Casemiro, and you go, if that wasn't around, if that wasn't a thing, what would we do? Like, what would we do? What club would pick up that contract? What club would look at that and go, yeah, we'll get Casemiro? Unless it would just be a situation where he goes, no, I don't really care about the money. I don't care about, paying off the rest of my contract. I just want to play. But, I mean, talk about putting yourself and painting yourself into a corner that unless, thank God for this Saudi market, because otherwise I don't know how we'd get rid of him in the summer. I don't know how a transfer would happen. I really don't. And the fact that there is Saudi interest, and it looks like, again, they're definitely going to put a bid in, or most likely going to put a bid in, rather, because aren't really definites, and particularly with transfer reporting. But there is interest, and if those reports are accurate, that talks have already taken place, then it certainly would look like there's substance to this, which I think is positive. But if we do sell him and he does go to the Saudi Pro League, and like as I said, we kind of get away with one there, you've got to learn from that. And the people that will be in charge, your Omar Baradas, your Dan Ashworth, whenever he comes in, the Jason Wilcox, will be like, never again. Never again. And again, that's not an indictment on Casemiro. That's not going, Casemiro, he's never been good. Or Casemiro, he's washed. Or Casemiro, he's this. He never won 5 Champions Leagues. Because what we can't do, and I've noticed this a lot recently, particularly when a player does decline or play bad, we just rewrite history. Casemiro has never been good. Or how did Real Madrid win the Champions League with Casemiro? Well, they won the Champions League with Casemiro because when he was in that team, he played very well. And he was in one of the best sort of modern midfield trios that you can think of: Casemiro, Modric, Toni Kroos. So that's why. That's why. And when he came in last season, he was good. But unfortunately, once you get past 30, the drop off it can be quick. Of course, it can be quick. And then when you're playing in a system where, particularly midfield, you've got to cover so much ground and you're into a bit of physical decline anyway, it's going to be rapid, isn't it? It's going to be absolutely rapid. And I've mentioned it a lot recently. I really do sympathise and empathise with Casemiro in recent weeks, because for a player that has done what he has done in the game and has achieved what he's achieved in the game and did leave Real Madrid when it wasn't as if he was being forced out. Again, you can't rewrite history here. He saw the writing on the wall at Real Madrid in terms of the midfielders they were bringing in, younger midfielders, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, etc. I think because before he left, he was like man of the match in the Super Cup final, I think it was. And I think he starts the first game of the season on the bench. He kind of realises, I think the writing's on the wall a little bit. I'm going to get out of here. The Manchester United move happens. And he's saying to John Murto, I'll come here and I'll fix it. So, it's he comes here, and then now one of the memories or reputations of Casemiro is that, look at him. He can barely move. He can barely run. He's getting embarrassed at Crystal Palace. He's at the weekend. He's not jogging. I mean, I still push back on what I believe to be an excuse, which is, well, he's centre back, so that's why he didn't push up. I mean, come on. You're playing centre back. You push up. I mean, that football basics. He did the right thing in terms of Onana's got the ball. You go wide, make an angle for the goalkeeper. The moment the goalkeeper goes long, you push up. That's what you do. He didn't. It was laziness. It was laziness, or he thought the ball was going to come back that quickly. I don't know. He should push up. You're playing centre back. I don't understand that. But with Casemiro, I sympathise in the sense that he deserves better. Well, he doesn't deserve, I think, for his reputation to take a hit that is taken at the moment. But you're being shown up. You're being embarrassed. He's the time is now for him to go in the summer. And the problem is that Man United backed themselves into corner so badly with his contract. If we didn't have this Saudi Pro League outlet, we might be in a bit of trouble with that one. But as I said earlier, that I didn't think Bruno will go. I think Casemiro is I think that's a safe bet that he'll go. And if we can get that deal done, you're talking about money saved once again. It's a lot of money saved, isn't it? I mean, 300 plus K a week. Then you're looking at Rafael Varane, similar amount of money saved. Anthony Martial, 250k saved. Sancho, if he goes, I mean, his wage does fluctuate, but let's say ballpark 200, possibly rising up even higher, but around that kind of money saved. It's a lot of money saved and a lot of money off the wage bill that hopefully can then be put into the team to go after new targets, go after targets that are going to pay off, and go after target. And even as well, just because we've got that money saved doesn't mean we have to spend it all again. That's the other part. Well, we've got a 300k contract now because Casemiro's gone. Who wants 300k? You go, well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we don't give one player 300k. Maybe we sort of split it. Maybe we give someone 150. Maybe we give someone 100. Maybe we incentivize some of these players instead of just throwing money. Maybe when we do sign a player, if they're on 20k a week, maybe that's not like, just add another zero onto that. Like we did with, say, Anthony, where it was like 20k. Let's go to 200. Maybe like Maguire as well. When he came to Manchester United, how much you want? Again, let's give you like around 200 or something like that. Let's just do that. Well, no, just because we've got the money doesn't mean we should just give it straight away. Let's use it wisely, maybe. There's a thought when we're negotiating. How about, particularly if we're signing a player from a smaller club, we don't have to do that. They should be happy to be here without just constantly throwing money at them, constantly throwing money. How much do you want? No, does it matter? How much are you willing to give? We'll give you anything you want. We're desperate. Why? Well, have you seen us at the moment? Have you seen us in the league? Have you seen us recently? And then depending on where it is in the transfer window as well, it's the final day, so we need you. Come in. Come. We'll give you what you want. So just because we save that money doesn't necessarily mean let's just spend it. Let's just spend it. Let's just give it back. Let's reinvest straight away. So yeah, with the Casemiro one, I think that happens in the summer. Him going to Saudi, and reportedly talks maybe have already started, and the hope, as they said in that report, is that it would get done quickly. That's what you would hope as well, wouldn't it? You would hope that it's not a thing that drags on, particularly if there's a wanting from the players' point of view to get it done, and the club's point of view, or the league's point of view to get it done. Maybe that's one that can get done quickly. So we shall see. Watch this space, and watch this space for the return of the transfer views. They're going to be coming back very soon as well once the transfer window opens, which is they're always a lot of fun to do. Where are we at in terms of the likes? We're already over 1,200 in terms of people watching at the moment, and rapidly close to 500 likes, which is excellent. Excellent. Less than 100 to go till 500, which is fantastic. So if you haven't already clicked that like button, the UV community is coming out strong today, which was what we love to see. What are people saying here in the chat about Casemiro as well? Dwayne says, I doubt the Saudi league will buy Casemiro, and we will have to subsidise his wages at another club for 2 years after he stays next season. Dwayne thinks he's going to stay. I mean, again, I think that he's he'll go in the summer. I do. What else are people saying here? Marcos says, we must stop giving out stupid contracts and make contracts based on achievements. And if the player doesn't want to come play for Man United, good. At least we're not getting mercenaries. That fella says, CV since 2018-19, 3 league titles, 4 domestic trophies, 2 other finals that were lost. Added to this mad injury record, Erik ten Hag deserves another season. Look, I mean, with the Ten Hag stuff, very briefly, because it's not really that show this morning. It's more about these the players and what have you. But the Ten Hag stuff will rattle on until Ineos make a decision one way or the other. It's not going to happen until the FA Cup final, I don't think. What is a really interesting development is the sort of managerial market at the moment, in that it feels like every day it's shrinking, doesn't it? I mean, you look at Bayern Munich and just the disaster that they're having trying to recruit. I mean, for me, that what's happening at Bayern Munich at the moment in terms of their recruiting for a manager, I was trying to think of like an example like it. I was trying to think of an example like it in terms of clubs that have decided of either sacked a manager or decided to go in a different direction, and then they're looking for someone else. I mean, they've been rejected by like 4 people now, or 4 targets they've gone for haven't worked out. I mean, some compared it to Spurs back in 2021. Remember when they were looking for all of these different managers, and they just, I think it was Conte turned it down. I think that's when the time when Ten Hag interviewed for it, and they ended up getting Nuno in the end. But this is on another level. It's Bayern Munich. And they've been rejected by Xabi Alonso, Nagelsmann, Ranić. They wanted Glasner from Crystal Palace. And Steve Parrish said you can have him for €100 million. the reports they're looking at Ten Hag, but they want someone in quicker. So even if he were to leave Man United, that's not as quick as what they're looking for, and they appreciate that one would be difficult because there is still, I think, like a 50-50 chance he does stay at United. So that doesn't happen. And Hansi Flick, that one was hot for a day, and now that's not. He's not going to go there, and now they're trying to convince Thomas Tuchel to stay, a man that earlier on this year they said they didn't want, and they've gone after like 4 or 5 people since then. And now they're looking for maybe to stay. I mean, it's just a complete mess. And I don't blame, I mentioned this before, I don't blame like a Ralf Rangnick for turning it down, because I think that would just be, they might as well name an interim manager. Whoever the next manager is at Bayern Munich, depending on who it is, but they should just name him as interim manager for the year. Because you're telling me that at the end of next season, if Xabi Alonso's like, right, this year I'm going to leave Bayer Leverkusen, they don't go after him again. Of course they will. Of course they will. So that's why I think Ralf Rangnick went, I'm not going there. Would you want to go there for a year? I've got a good job here in Austria. I'm going to go to the Euros and maybe go to the World Cup as well. That's not going to happen. I'm not going there. No, thank you. So that is a complete mess. But circling back to Ten Hag and Ineos, one of their concerns is the managerial market isn't great this summer, and it does look like it. I mean, you look at Liverpool; they didn't get their first choice to replace Jurgen Klopp. So I think that is something that does go in Ten Hag's favour. And then, again, maybe that will change in like 6 months' time. It's very interesting how all that kind of stuff plays out, isn't it? Let's move on, as we are 14 likes away from 500. So if you haven't already, click that like button. Let's move on. Talk about Gary Neville. He was back in Rasmus Hojlund last night. Gary Neville was on Monday Night Football. And there was an article yesterday from Samuel Lutkers, which was just the most bullshit article. It really was talking about players don't want to pass to Rasmus Hojlund. Okay. It reeked of, there's not a lot negative to say about like players after the game on Sunday, because it was a really dry game. Not in terms of the weather, but a dry game. So I've got to pick on someone. So he decided to pick on Rasmus Hojlund. And Rasmus Hojlund got some backing from the former Manchester United captain. He said, I think he's physical. I think he's got a good mentality and is a good kid. I think he's playing in a struggling team in a difficult environment. He's not the problem at Manchester United. He is someone to persevere with. He also said every player they've signed over the last 10 years has struggled. For young players, it has been difficult. I hope they sign another striker in the summer, not to support Hojlund, but to partner him, to mentor him, someone he can learn from. Now, this was something that kind of Flex spoke about in the Flex's view yesterday. And like with everything, it's nuanced, isn't it? But the stuff from Lutkers, I just thought was ridiculous. And I'm glad that it got the reaction that it did. I'm glad that, even the aggregators didn't really pick it up, because it didn't pass the smell test at all. I'm fascinated to see what happens with Lutkers today. I wouldn't be shocked if it comes out that, Lutkers, he's been banned from asking another question in the press conference, because you can't just make shit up and just lie and take swipes at players for no reason. It was such a nonsense article. Now, is Rasmus Hojlund immune from criticism? Of course he's not. Of course Rasmus Hojlund is not immune from criticism. Is he playing in a system that doesn't benefit him? Absolutely. I mean, in games this season, the person who's passed to him the most has been Andre Onana. He's had, I think, some of the fewest shots in the league in comparison to other strikers at big clubs. I think he's actually got like a good conversion rate, considering the amount of shots to goals that he's actually been able to take, or chances created for him. So he's clearly in a system that doesn't help him. Now, does he need to be better? Of course he does. Of course he does. I thought Arsenal was a great example of this, where didn't have a lot of the ball, didn't create a lot of chances created for him. But when he did receive the ball at points, hold up play needs to be better. Can't always be, I'm just going to play with my back to goal and sort of wrestle with the fullback and then the ball's going to ping off me. That needs to be better. Now, in an ideal world, you would have another striker, wouldn't you? In an ideal world, or in a normal world, not even ideal. I don't think it's too much of an ask, is it? In a normal world, at a normal club, at an actually functioning football club, you would have another striker available. You would have an experienced striker on the bench or in the squad, or a striker in their prime that you go, okay, Rasmus Hojlund, because he's 21 and it's his first season in the league, maybe we can take him out for a few games. Maybe if it's not working for him, we can, start him on the bench and we can bring him on. And maybe we can bring him on. He can partner that striker up front, or we can, again, take him out of the spotlight. Maybe we can do that, but we can't. We can't do that. So it's a combination of a lot of things. Does he need to improve? Yeah, of course he needs to improve. He's a young player. He will improve. Does the system help him? No. The system doesn't work for a lot of people. We don't create a lot of chances for the striker. It's a pretty sort of selfish system in that it's individual brilliance. Everyone's just kind of doing stuff for themselves as opposed to doing things for other players and creating chances for other players. And we should have someone else. We should have another person. We should have another striker. That's why in the summer, when you're talking about positions that you're looking for, you would say you need a striker. We need another striker. We need support for that. And then even with that striker who comes in, they need to get service too, because that's what strikers rely on chances being created for them. So you're looking at the wide players, you're looking at the midfielders. Create more chances for that striker, not for yourself. So I do agree what Gary Neville says. I understand the frustration because there's a lot going wrong at United and it's not very good at the moment. So when that happens, we start just picking at everyone, don't we? We start picking at everyone. Oh, Hojlund, you're not actually that good until you score goals again. Then you're good. Oh, Garnacho, you're not that good now. You're rubbish. Again, you think you're Ronaldo, you're not. Get rid of Garnacho. Bruno, you're actually rubbish. You can actually go in the summer. Blah blah blah. And again, they're not immune from criticism. Shouldn't be mistaken as you can't talk negatively about Rasmus Hojlund. Of course you can. Of course you can. If he's not playing well, you can say that I think he needs to improve on this, or he didn't play very well today. You can say that about Garnacho at the weekend. Didn't play very well at the weekend. But this sort of, writing them off. He's a young player. I think he will get better. I do agree with what Gary Neville was saying there. Couple of super chats here. Foxy Jane says, why assume Bruno wants to stay? He wants Euroball. Why assume Bruno wants to stay? He wants Euroball. Well, if he's going to Saudi Arabia, then he won't be playing in Europe. But you're saying he'd want to leave and stay in Europe? Is that the suggestion, Foxy Jane? I'm not sure what you mean by that one. But it's first super chat. I appreciate that. Or is that won't stay? You're saying why? You say he won't stay. I mean, I think Bruno. I said I don't think Bruno's going to go in the summer anyway. But you never know what could happen with the Saudi Pro League. Are you saying so he could go to? Well, I think if Bruno went in the summer, I think it would be to a Saudi club. I don't think because again, certainly what the reports are saying that it would take an extraordinary offer for a club to purchase him this summer. I don't see a European club doing that. I could see a Saudi team doing that to put an offer on the table that he would have to say no. I mean, unless he's very angry. She means he wants European football. It's not rocket science, Owen. All right, that's okay. All right, cool. It's okay, fine. It's okay. Because we didn't qualify for Europe, so he definitely want to leave in the summer. I don't know. Again, I don't see it. The only instance I would see that Bruno leaving in the summer is if they got a big Saudi offer. But then even then, I don't know if he's the kind of player that be like, I just got such a big contract that I couldn't turn that down. I don't think he's swayed by that. I don't think so. Now you could make the argument of say a Barcelona came in. And they were like, oh, well, we can't give you a ton of money, but it's Barcelona. Then maybe he might be swayed by that. But I don't think United would go for it because I think they'd be looking at a serious amount of money for their captain. So yeah, I don't really see it. I don't see it. It's okay. And Anita says, sorry, it wasn't meant that way. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. We know we're all friends here. It's a very tense time at the moment. It's fine. It's okay. Where are we at in terms of the likes? We did get over 500 likes, which is excellent. Let's see how high we can go. You never know. Yesterday was incredible. Yesterday, it was a record. It was over 1,000 likes on the morning show. I don't expect that today, but you never know. How high can we go? And I do want to talk about Marcus Rashford briefly. Because if you were hoping that Marcus Rashford was going to be back for the game tomorrow, well, it doesn't look like that's going to happen, although he could be back for the weekend. So here's what Samuel Luckhurst, gross, said from the Manchester Evening News this morning. When he wasn't busy slagging off players, he was talking about players coming back. He said Marcus Rashford has been nursing 2 injuries during his recent layoff, bruised ribs and a bruised heel. Rashford is confident the bruising on his ribs has healed, but he is still suffering soreness on his heel. His preference would be to return against Brighton on Sunday. So I think with the Rashford one, because it's one of those stories, isn't it? You know what the reaction's going to get. You go, Marcus Rashford doesn't feel he's ready to come back for tomorrow, come back at the weekend. The reaction's going to be good. We don't need him. Good. Go away. Heal and never come back. Never do that. I think when I saw the team on Sunday at Old Trafford, that was without Bruno Fernandes, was without Marcus Rashford, was without Lisandro Martinez. That to me screamed of a team and a manager that went, who gives a shit about the Premier League now? Who cares? Let's just not risk anything. Let's get through these games. Let's save everyone up for the FA Cup final. We'll play as strong a team as we can, really, against Brighton to get some minutes in some of these players, to get minutes into Leacher, to get minutes into Bruno, to get minutes into Rashford, to get as many people back as we possibly can. Luke Shaw, time goes on, you don't think it's going to make it. But it just felt like that the remaining games are pre-season, isn't it? The remaining games are pre-season, and the first game of the season is actually our end of the season, which is that FA Cup final. All eyes are on the FA Cup final. Can we get people as fit as possible? The people that have been injured or dealing with injuries, because I think that's fair, what you can say of Marcus Rashford, that he's been playing through injuries for a while. Same with Bruno. And maybe it got to a point where it's like, okay, then if you're playing through it, let's just stop now. Let's just stop. Stop doing it. Stop playing through the injuries. If you're hurt, don't play. We're not risking you. We're going to build you up, and we're going to try and play as strong as a team as we possibly can for that FA Cup final. So that's the same for like a Varane. Because Eric Ten Hag in an ideal world would have a defence that's 3/4 different for the FA Cup final at Wembley. He'd hope that he'd have Luke Shaw back, which, like I said, I don't think happens. We need a new left back in the summer. A centre back pairing, completely different. Back, Varane, Martinez. Dallo would be the same. You go with Cobby probably in midfield, who's going to play all of these games until the FA Cup final. Who would partner him? Probably Casemiro, probably. And he's playing at the moment, so that one. And then you're looking at, he wants to get Rashford back. In an ideal world as well, you could obviously get Bruno back. I would have a hope that you would actually be able to rest Garnacho before the FA Cup final. So, put Garnacho on the bench. Start Ahmad. Do like an Ahmad and an Anthony thing. Result be damned. Rest some players. Garnacho needs to have some games on the bench. Needs it on the bench. And obviously Hojlund will play some games. Mason Mount. He was injured for the game at the weekend. According to Ten Hag, it's not too bad. He might be back for tomorrow. He'll definitely be back for the game against Brighton. For me, Sunday was the real confirmation of it's all eyes on Wembley. All eyes on Wembley. If you're carrying a knock, if you've got any kind of fitness issue, obviously we need to put out a team for these games. But the time for sort of playing really through that pain barrier is not now. The season has been given up on in the Premier League. All eyes are on the final. So let's get people ready for that. Or at the very least, let's get people ready for that Brighton game on Sunday to get some minutes into all of these injured players. And then we'll go for that. We'll go for the final. So with Rashford, if he's still got a knock or what have you, then don't play. That's it. Don't play. And I think that's the aim they're going for. All Elite says, Owen, you've got to remember that we can still get into Europa if we win these final 2 games. The club need for us to be in Europe for the money. Well, it depends what they think is doable. they might think that their best chance of getting into Europa is winning the FA Cup as opposed to doing it in the league. I mean, we're 8th, 3 points behind Chelsea. They got better goal difference. So, you could argue technically 4 points. They say goal difference counts as a point, doesn't it? We've got to play Newcastle. I mean, we'll see what happens tomorrow, won't it? Tomorrow will be a big indicator of it all. Who are Chelsea's remaining games? They're away to Brighton and at home to Bournemouth. You could maybe see them dropping points away to Brighton, but even Brighton at the moment, they feel very checked out. I know they've kind of won a couple of games more recently, but you don't know. Bournemouth, they've had a very good season. Their manager just signed a new contract, but yeah, we'll know. I think we'll know our fate going into that final game of the season, won't we? But my impression of it anyway is that Man United have sort of decided, or Erik ten Hag has decided that the season hinges on the FA Cup final. Almost like, I don't know if I expect Chelsea to drop points. So let's just see if we can win the FA Cup, see what happens that day, win a trophy Europa. Unlikely, but it's a cup final, isn't it? It's a cup final. Anything can happen in the cup final, which is true. And I know that with how bad things are at the moment, and I know with how bad we're playing and our injuries and our form and the fact that we haven't... What is it? Is it one win? Isn't it like in 7 or something like that? What is the actual form at the moment? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is it 1 win in 10 in the Premier League? So, or is it 1 win in 9? It's not good. Yeah, it's not good. So with that kind of form, going into an FA Cup final, you're well within your rights to go, I don't think it's going to go very well. And then you're playing against a team that we'll find out tonight, but could very well be the Premier League champions. But it's a cup final. And in cup competitions, the best team doesn't always win it. I mean, look in the past. Look at Wigan. They won it and they got relegated that season. There have been numerous times where the best team, team that finishes outside the top 4 wins the FA Cup, or team that isn't the Premier League champions wins the FA Cup. Anything is possible. So, yeah, it's a cup final. I mean, I probably closer to the time. Hopefully, I'll be saying that with more confidence than I am now. But it is true. Look, we played Coventry at Wembley. They're a mid-table championship team. They got the ball in the net 4 times against us. Now, was that the magic of the cup, or was that because we're just shit? I lean more to the latter, but there was an FA Cup element of it. And it's a Manchester derby. It's a repeat of last year. All that kind of stuff. So, and I know that that's kind of like intangibles. It's not really like concrete stuff you want to hold on to. You'd much prefer to be like holding on to, well, because of these players and because of this tactic and because of this form, I'm feeling confident. You're having to hold on to the stuff that you can't really sort of touch and you can't really look at. FA Cup's magic, isn't it? It's a final. It's Wembley. It's this. It's that. So, but that's where we're at. And going back to the point about Europe, if we win it, then we're in the Europa League somehow, some way. Europe and a trophy. And it's not the Europe we want to be in, but that would be salvaging something. I mean, particularly again with this recent form, if we manage to pull that off, think about the stuff you would manage to salvage from this complete horror show of a season of Europa League, which again is not ideal, but it's European football, and a trophy. That would be insane. We shall see. We'll think about that close to the time. I mentioned this before the Arsenal game. I hadn't really allowed my mind to go there for the Arsenal game, and then it kind of just, was there. I was like, oh, damn. But I haven't let my mind go there at the moment. And who knows what happened with City? Maybe they would have like bottled the league or lost the league by that point. Maybe they'll be in a difficult space. Maybe something would have happened. Who knows? But there you go, guys. That's the morning view for you this morning. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. How many likes did we end up at? 591. 9 more likes to 600, which is fantastic for a solo show. Really appreciate that. Am I caught up with all of the super chats? I think I am. Yes, caught up with all the super chats. Appreciate everyone that's got involved this morning. A reminder, what's on tap for the rest of the day. So there is going to be a press conference. What is the time for the press conference, actually? Let's double check this. Time for the presser is, usually it's like 1:30, 12:30, I think. Wow. says 12:30 and then 1:45. There'll be a press conference later today. Stay tuned. Make sure you got the notification bell turned on. You'll be notified when we go live and when it gets set up. So I'll be live for that one. And then I'll have the Flex and KG show later on this evening. 7 p.m. As always. And yes, and there should be something on playback as well. So be sure to get involved with playback. Links in the pinned in the chat too. And if anything else happens on the way, we'll cover it here on the channel as well. Anyway, guys, have a good Tuesday. I'm out of here. Peace.